Hello everybody, all I'm going to say for this video is buckle up, strap yourself in, make sure you've got some refreshments nearby because this is going to be a long one. We are going to look at a patch library today from Rocky Mountain Sounds, and it's a new one that's going to come out in the next week called Complexity. And this is Jason Schoepfer, who's absolutely fantastic patch designer for Omnisphere. And in this little library, well, I say little, it's not really little, you'll understand when I tell you in a minute. Complexity comes with 291 patches, 34 multis, and 122 unique sound sources. Now, those sound sources come from Jason's personal analog synthesizer collection, and they've been twisted, mangled, and screamed to death within Omnisphere. So, let's just say you're not going to get the original sample by the time he's finished with it. So you also have a Unify enhanced patches. You've got 352 of those with 27 bonus ones. I personally don't have Unify yet. It is on the to buy list, but I'll just concentrate on the Omnisphere ones today. So there we go. I'm going to chapter this video because it's going to be a long one, so you'll be able to go through and zip backwards and forwards. I'm going to spare you the anxiety and horror of having me on camera, and we're just going to concentrate on the interface because there's a lot going on in these libraries. So without further ado, we'll head on over to the Arp and BPM section, and in here this is all the ARPs and BPMs we've got. And apologies if you hear odd car horns and stuff, it's quite stuffy today over in the wonderful land of the northwest UK, so I've got the window open. Hopefully it won't translate across into this video. So we've got, first of all, a BPM bells. We'll go through this section. Bleremia Drumscape. And what you need to do before you play a single note is look in the main bit, because it tells you what the mod wheel or anything else does after touch, etc. And that is important to get the most out of this library. I've said before, the mod wheel I always have attached to a pedal that's underneath my keyboard, so I can use both hands on the keys and just use my left foot to tweak the mod wheel without having to take my hands off the keyboard. If you haven't got one and your master controller keyboard allows you to plug in a mod wheel pedal, do it. You just change the way you use Omnisphere. It's fantastic. So that's the intro over with. Over to the sounds, starting off with ARP and BPM. We'll add a bit of mod wheel. And that's where you get your delay. I'm not going to even try and pronounce this one. How on earth did you come up with this name, Jason? Blooming hell. No, I'm not even going to try it. And if you ever want to look at how he's done the ARP pattern, just click on the ARP section, and there you go. You see each note number on here represents the semitone from the root note you play. So if you play a C, that is 9 semitones down, 7 semitones down, 10 semitones up, and so on, so on, so on. So that's how that ARP works. Here, 9 lives. So it's a 9/8 pattern in the ARP. So that slight tearing in the sound is the wave shaper kicking in as I increase the mod wheel, which is, yeah, really nice. So Gravity Grasper. So it's the orb that actually should be working. It's not working for some reason. I shall just send it off on its mirror away. There we go. So if that ever happens to you, the orb gets stuck, just literally, and I'll just start the patch again. Literally, it's worked this time. I think, no, I wasn't this one. yeah, that didn't actually work. When I first put it on, oh, that's working this time. Must have been a slight glitch. If it doesn't actually work, then just literally grab that little dot and just give it a quick mouse spin and it'll set it off on its way. So the mod wheel adds tempo sync delay on this one. So these are a bit of chaotic arpeggiators. So the ones that are named the same, you get the same timbre to start with, but then when you tweak the mod wheel or whatever it tells you to do, it gives you a different outlook on the sound. So we've got Rhythmatica, this one, a fun multi-layer percussion groove. And then the alternative version, Toyon Bright Day. So you can play the arp like and the sound, you don't have to hold it like with a pad. Bit of fancy modulation there for you. Mellow Night. Like I say, similar idea to the original Bright Day, but this one, as its name suggests, a bit more mellow. And now we have a drumkit displacer. I wish he'd pick some easier names to Sam. I'm sure he's done this on purpose, or to make a hash of these names. Absolutely butchering them, but not to worry. So you've got a whole section of these arps, and I do like arps. Ooh. Surprise. So there's an important bit in here which is turn on the arpeggiator if you wish to play this lock to the first beat for explorative layering. So if you're layering the patch, put that on and I'll lock it to your first beat then. Without it, it's not quite locked to the first beat. So that comes handy when you, chances are there'll be multi coming up with this on. Chromatic repeating. These chaotic type sounds, it's important, you, like I said before, you read that passage on the notes page, because it does tell you how to get the most out of it if you're going to layer this instrument. Basically set the arp, and what the arp does is pretty much give you an 8 step, basically 1 step over 8 bits, so to speak. sorry, too early in the morning to explain how that works. I'll probably do that in a different video on how to sort of get the arpeggiator to work that way. So these are great for setting the initial atmosphere of the sound. Well, not the sound, the track you're working on. Excuse me, my voice is already going. I've only just started this video. It's important, this one, you actually do read the instruction, because it says, although it's rhythmic, it's got to be used as a texture first and foremost, as it's not BPM locked. So if you want to play it BPM locked, again, set the arpeggiator off. And this one does use aftertouch, so aftertouch has a cool ring modulation. So here we go. That ringing in the background, that's your ring modulator. This is great for like an industrial type track. Reminds me of the beginning of Industrial Revolutions by Jar, that beginning. Well, there we go. Scatters repeating. Space radio. Now these BPM textures, me personally, I would use them either as an intro to your track, as I've said earlier, or also as an underlayer, just sort of mixed gently in the background, quite low down, but it'll add sort of more depth and breadth to the track. So what are we on? Temporal whisper. Transmission error. And these do seem to be atonal. In other words, they don't have a pitch attached to them, because I'll just play two different keys there and they sound very, very similar. So they're atonal in that respect. So that's all your ARP and BPMs. Bells and vibes, I think we've got about 9 in here. So mod wheel adds tempo synced radio delay. More bells. some mallets. So that radio delay is very subtle, and if you want to see how much is actually used delay wise, you can just nip over to here, and I think it might be in the auxiliary. There we are, auxiliary. So that auxiliary return will tell you how much of that radio delay is going to actually come in. And if you nip over to the modulation page, you can actually see where are we? Common auxiliary sender. Here we go. So it's halfway. So the wheel only goes halfway. It doesn't go all the way, so you don't get the full. You can control the delay, but you don't get absolute complete 100% wet. You can only go up to like 50% wet on your sound. So silhouette. So whenever we get bells, I always have to find a patch to do that. Sorry. Targus Airstream. And that's the bells and vibes section. We now move on to the good old distortion, and these are all textures. So we've got complex madness. So let's see what it says. It says high pass filtered dual textures provide for amazing ear candy. Mod wheel adds rich radio delay texture. So I've got mod wheel needs to be used in this patch. Inner space is loaded on the auxiliary FX bus in case you want to explore more effects using the mod wheel. Just turn it on and change the settings. So that's important because it's not initially engage that second bit. So it says turn on the auxiliary FX bus. So let's have a look. Auxiliary FX bus is there, and there we go. Inner space, turn it on. Two patches in one. That's a lovely tail on that for reverb. Nice. Complex Madness Subsonic. And again, you can go into the inner space, turn it on to get a different sound. That's got a low, deep bass sound. That is tonal, so you've got to be careful when you play it in key. Complex Momentum. I'm not going to announce the names of all these, I'm just going to play through them. All I will say is, remember, and I've said it loads of times in this video, sorry, but do play with mod wheel, because Jason has done an awful lot of programming, so these patches use full range of the mod wheel, really. That and not in all patches, but a lot of them aftertouch. For those that don't know what aftertouch is, check your master keyboard, because not all will have this facility, and basically what it means is when you play your keyboard and you think you've hit the bottom of the keyboard bed, push it a little bit further and you'll get the aftertouch then. But if your keyboard doesn't support it, don't do it, because you might actually break something somewhere along the line. So I'm intrigued to see what inner space does to, not the Arp, Adrian, inner space. There we go. Let's see what inner space does to this. Just intrigued. Slightly different texture to it. No pun intended. That we're looking at textures, but there we go. Now, if you've got good speakers or headphones, you'll be able to hear that nice subsonic rumble. And it gives you that outer space feeling, which is absolutely fantastic for your ambient tracks, and which will get used quite a lot in the stuff I do. Bit of a plug there for the rest of the channel. If you haven't already done so, please like, subscribe, and there'll be more of these types of videos on the way. Well, they're all variations on the theme of these sort of like spacey ambient textures. I already have ideas for another project listening to these, where you could actually layer them and get them coming in at different times. It's yeah. Now that you could actually use as transition between two sort of parts of your music. So as you get to the end of the other one half of your piece, you can transition by going. So you get like a reverse cymbal sound, which will be quite interesting. Yeah, to get quite a bit of this rich radio delay texture thing, I am rocking the mod wheel backwards and forwards. So that's another little tip. Don't just move it and then leave it stuck where it is. See what happens when you rock it. Either if you've got a pedal or if you're using your fingers on the mod wheel on your keyboard. Right, next section, Electro Percussion. Now, if I remember rightly, these are from an 808, or an 808 style. So you can tell these are bespoke samples because it's got their RMS Complexity scatters LP and complexity temporal whisper, so you can tell that these are using bespoke samples. So claps, I won't dwell too much on this in the sense of talk you through it, because it's basically drums and percussion. And uses the Arp, and these are the ones that I said earlier he uses when I gave the description in the intro with this video. That basically it's using odd meters quite a lot of this, because this is using a 9-beat. Now you might ask, why are we doing that? Why would you do that? Why would you not have something that goes on the beat? Well, if you have everything on the beat, it can sound monotonous. But if you have it running at, say, 9 beats, or in this case 7 beats, and place it against a 4-beat pattern, you end up with a nice little polyrhythm going. So when it repeats at a different part. Instead of repeating on beat 3, it'll repeat the sound you heard on beat 3 in the last bar will be on beat 2 in the next bar, and so on. Just adds more interest to the sound. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the 808 actually came out, and it didn't get a good reception, if memory recalls. It was either someone was saying, "Oh, this is cheating," or "put drums out of a job," and almost other people saying, "What horrible sounds! Why would you want to use that?" Yeah, fast forward about 40 years or so, and it's in everything, dance tracks, everything. It's amazing what happens over time with taste. Could do like a popcorn. If you don't know what popcorn is, YouTube it as an old synthesizer track, and that just reminded me of that sound. Just reminded me of that. So the mod wheel here adds more wave shape overtones. So on all of these, play with the mod wheel, because as you hear that, this is normal kick, and I add a bit of the mod wheel. And all these sounds are tonal, so if you're playing further up the keyboard, because that's middle C, that's further up, no C, further up the octave. Up the octave, up the keyboard. It was a long day yesterday, still not recovered. You see, and just because it's a drum sound doesn't mean you're stuck to playing just the one note. So if I play an octave apart, like this one is a... Now I'm going to play another C further up the keyboard, and you get a slightly different pattern. We now come to cleaner sounds, in the sense of I don't have the art. So you can program, which is good for Jason, you can actually program your own patterns in if you want to. I'll just go back to that because it says works great with the ARP turned on. Well, it's off at the moment, so just to turn the on the ARP, you don't have to actually go into the ARP like that and press the button. If you're in this page, you see that little tab underneath, just click it. There you go, it's on. So that's all your electro percussion. Hits and bits. Again, this is going to be, I'm going to do this the same way as what I did electro percussion, just play straight through. So these are going to be great for your transitions between sections of music. And if you read the bit under in the main window here, this bit here, it says, mouse I've got mod wheel adjust the sample start for a quick resolution. So your mod wheel will adjust the length of the sort of like bit at the beginning of the reverse feeling. So it'll come in sooner. The more you put the mod wheel forward, the sooner you'll get the resolution. You can actually play that as a lead, strangely enough. Yeah, an interesting one. And notice, I was pressing the key quite quick. It's playing through the sample. So every time I press the F key, you get a different sound, which is quite good. So I've stopped talking for a bit so I can give my voice a bit of a rest, because we have done quite a lot of talking and we're not even halfway through this video. Now this is interesting. Pitch bend has been used to change the crush amount, explore the different sonic treatments. So the pitch bend, I don't have a pedal attached to that because pitch bend is one of those subjective things where it's always better to do it by feel. So I'll just take my hand off the keyboard. So we have that. Oh, that's all your hits and bits. Noisescapes. We've got more textures. This is an absolute texture fest, this patch library. Great for cinematic underscores, if anybody's asking. So my mod wheel here is controlling a bit of wave shaping. Aftertouch will add a bit of crush. And the two layers fade in and out with the mod wheel controlling the LF solve speed. So a lot going on. And if you're ever unsure what is actually going on, just go into the layer, click on modulation, and there we all have it. Wheel goes to the common auxiliary send, so common auxiliary send, common auxiliary send is that one, and my wheel goes to wave shape and depth, the aftertouch doing nothing, but then he's got the aftertouch actually doing wave shape a bit crush as well. Bias is also controlling the amplitude. So bias, you set the key on the keyboard, so either the further down your keyboard the louder it'll go, or the further up your keyboard the louder it will go. As it's got it inverted, should be that the further down the keyboard you go, the louder it becomes. But that could be used in a sound design sense to equalize your sound, because it might sound very quiet in the lower reaches of your keyboard, but absolutely fine in the upper reaches. So to offset that, you can use the bias to bring the bottom end back in line with the top end. Quite an ingenious effect. I use it sometimes to sort of like create splits in your keyboard. So you can have pads in the left and lead in the right without using multi. You can also attach it to cutoff. I do have a video on the channel that goes into a bias, and I'll be taking a deeper dive into what the bias does in a much later video. And if you haven't done already, please like, subscribe to the channel, ding that bell, and you'll be notified of when the next video is up. So the orb should be engaged. You see the orb's stuck again on this, so you're not getting the full effect. So if you think, oh, something's happening here, grab that little thing there, give it a little tweak. There you go, we're off. That computational levers sound was like my brain last night after the day I had. So complexity is really living up to its name here. Complex. Just quickly going through these so you get an idea of what these textures do. As I say, play with the mod wheel, and if your orb, now the orb's fine on this one, but if it gets stuck, give it a bit of a whirl and it'll be alright. That sounded very similar. Ah, now the orb's working. It seems to be a strange glitch in Omnisphere now and again when you've recorded an orb sequence and nothing happens when you reload the patch. I've had it happen to me a few times, so I'm not quite sure it's just my installation or what happens to everybody else. See, that one's alright. Very strange. And if you're wondering how I'm zooming through these patches without actually mousing over the sound, up and down arrow keys on your keyboard, basically. Press your down arrow, next sound. But you only can use that if you've already clicked previously on a sound. If I suddenly click over here and do it, oh, it does work. It didn't used to work actually. You used to have to go back into the focus and click on the patch. So that must have been a fix in a earlier version of Omnisphere. See, you learn new things. Every day. And there's a lot of Noisescapes. So this section's going to be quite lengthy. And if you haven't been watching the rest of the video, why not? But if you haven't, always remember, play with the mod wheel. If you've stuck with me going through the whole of the patch library from start to now, thank you. Very much appreciated. And I would welcome a subscribe to the channel and a like. And then comment below if you like these sounds. Post links to tracks that you actually make using these sounds. And I'll be very interested. I'm sure Jason at Rocky Mountain Sounds would be interested to hear what you come up with. Get enough of these, who knows, we might actually put a little playlist together. Get some of you independent musicians a bit of exposure if we can. Yeah, if you do post a link, please make sure you actually use just solely patches from this library, because you know we want to sort of show off what this can do, because it's quite a meaty, in-depth library. Great for, like I say, cinematic ambient music. I'll be using a lot of these Noisescape textures in my tracks, not just as intros to sort of like introduce the piece, to set the scene, but also if you set a drone, you could put this underneath, like particularly this one we're on now, just to add that extra bit of interest, and then not bury it in the mix, but drop it down a bit so it sits just under the drone. Now this could be used as a drone as well. A bit of aftertouch every now and again. I'm going to be brave at some point and do a composition live, where there's going to be a recording live, or if I can get YouTube streaming worked out, I might actually do it live, and it'll be a drone type ambient track. So if you don't want to miss that, me showing myself up and making an absolute pig's ear of things, then please subscribe to the channel. We can all have a laugh together at how disastrous it may actually end up. As we can see, Jason does love his textures. Yeah, and also, I've got to say, full disclosure, I have been sent this library to do this particular walkthrough, but this is an unbiased review. I'm not just going to say this is excellent because I was sent it truly is a work of art. You can tell how many hours went into not just sampling the sound, but actually designing the patches. I don't think I would have the patience to actually go into this depth, but yeah, kudos. So, as I've said before, I'll keep repeating it through the video just in case you're skipping through, so apologies if you've heard it for the 30 trillionth time. Play with the mod wheel. Read the description. If it says aftertouch adds something, play with the aftertouch. If it says mod wheel does something, play with mod wheel. Some of these use the pitch bend. Yeah, just play, have fun. And if you don't know what is connected to what, just go into the mod matrix. So if you just go into the patch here and you get this bit, just hit modulation and you get the full mod matrix there, and it tells you exactly what's going on. So I'll just go back to me so you can see the instructions of what I'm playing. We're almost there through these, and then we get to our bread and butter type sounds, which I am really looking forward to. I get to play with some melody. Not that these are boring in any shape, way or form. This has got lots of movement. Love it. And we are still going. And we go on to Selkigia Mantle. I've not had a chat with Stabbers saying some of these. Oh, I wish I had. We'll just see what's coming up. Yeah, well, Subsonic Rumbles. Oh, here we go. Thackronippy Core. There we go. That's what I'm going to call it. Thackronippy. Haven't got a clue if that's how you pronounce it, but I always got told if you don't know how to pronounce something, pronounce it how you see it. Doesn't always work though, because vegetable would be vegetable if that was the case. Void. Okay, we're saying that one. Bering Bundler. So I would think that's probably come from a Behringer somewhere. Some kind of maybe that. Yeah, there's no hint what it's come from, but I would guess it's some kind of Behringer with a name like that. Interesting, 4 zones are spread across the keyboard. So, hit the dice. Okay, so click on the orb and hit the dice button to randomize the effect and create new and limited variations. See how it suddenly the pattern changes. click with dice. So we've got 4 zones, 4 patches, so what's that? And this is what I was saying to you before, earlier, if you've been with me this far, is the bias is altering the amplitude. So if I play in the middle of the keyboard, bias 5 is working. Play at bottom end of the keyboard when I find it. Sorry, top end of the keyboard. It doesn't go to the bottom end. Seems to stop at middle C. Top end, bias 1's working. Near the top, bias 3, so in between I'll have bias 2. You can see where in the keyboard, if you don't know where in the keyboard the patch is actually playing, just go to your mod matrix and see these little white lines. They tell you where, if that's been affected. Now I've hit middle C there, bias 5 and a little bit of bias 4 is being sorted there. So always, if you're not sure what's going on, look at that mod matrix. Oops, skip one. Fusion siphon. Yeah, save the best to last. These are fantastic textures. And the last one. So now that's all the Noisescapes. Now we're going to pads and strings. A CPU intensive granular orchestra. Yeah, exos, these like a string orchestra type, sent through the granular engine. Beautiful complexity. Cope with those words. The matrix boot sound source is split layered across the keyboard. So one wheel opens the filter and adds more on the shim layer. Very organ type sound. And a lot of these sounds, as you can see, after touch adds a light crushing feel to it. Matrix Brute, I was meant to say. Bit of a typo error. Sampled strings and bass laid together. Mod wheel. That's a bit of wave shaping in here. And then aftertouch, that's light crushing. Lovely tails on some of these. Let's change a key. And we've got like a nice lovely static effect in the background here. On that one. Phalustra flutes. What will we say the pad? Oh, that's a nice ending. Wasn't expecting that. Like a detuning at the end, so that's nice. Yeah, that's really nice what happens with the tail on that one. All this always say the pads, you can sometimes play them as leads. It's nice slow leads. Experiment. That's just the key. So this has an awful lot of instructions on, and where they don't fit, well, they do fit on there, but what you can do is you click on that little plus button there and you get the full thing there and you can see it in one. So beautiful and slow Matrix Brute, sampled bass turned into a pad with the addition of an unusual creation. A Canadian train was captured going through the Rocky Mountains. This was then transformed using a special reverb that added tonal overtones, creating a train synth element. Well, this should be interesting. It's loud, noisy, and simply awesome. It's a treat to include this little surprise into Complexity. Mod wheel adds a bit of wave shaping. Aftertouch adds light crushing for playable static effects. So in other words, an awful lot going on. So let's see what happens. No, it said that there was a train. You can actually hear that in the background, yeah. Nice. So I mean, you can play them as a lead rather than just a straight power patch. So always play with mod wheel. It has some. See, this wouldn't work well as a lead sound because of the slow. So I mean, it doesn't work. This is better as a pad. So that's what I say. Experiment. You never know where it'll take you. And I do like these sounds where there's a little extra element in the background. texture going on. Very nice. So if you've stuck with me this far, thank you very much. All I ask is you like and subscribe to the channel. Helps the YouTube algorithm, helps this channel get discovered a bit more, and allows me to do more of these type of walkthrough videos. More tips and tricks for Omnisphere. Creations using these wonderful libraries that these patch designers come up with. So it's really these short attack ones that you can just repurpose as a lead sound. So I just wanted to let you hear the tail on that one, because that's a lovely tail on the reverb. That's Terraria Station, and that's your pads and strings section done. We're now getting towards the end here because we're on synth bass. Now these bass sounds, although they say this synth bass, they can be repurposed as a lead sound. I've been playing with some of these, and there's a track I did where I have repurposed the bass sound as a lead instead. That's a normal lead, normal bass, sorry. Now playing further up the keyboard. Get that Daft Punk sound. If you think Tron soundtrack. That's his lead. That's a bass. All gone through the bass amp, which will be there we go, bassman. Umbra, Emerald Umbra. Punishing Matrix. That's your synth basses. Yeah, monos. So these are, when I say monoly, that means it'll only play one note at a time, and once you try and play two at a time, it will do a bit of note robbing somehow. Depends on how you set the note robbing up. So this is set so that the next note you play takes over but then you get the glide between the notes when you take it off. Now if that's too quiet for you, you can actually just change the gain here. So if I want a bit louder, so if I go to 0 decibel, makes it a little bit louder. Chorus version of it. And again, play with the mod wheel. On the aftertouch, bends the patch slightly upward. And the aftertouch again. So we now move to Synth Poly. We've only got a few sounds in here. Axiom modifier. Fusion Sifter. This is glide function, so a nice lead polysynth that uses the legato glide function to allow for separated playing without glide, but hold the notes and glide enables. There you go. Wonderful perky sound that is joy to play. Mod wheel adds rich radio delay. And after touch bends the pitch slightly upward. So great for the soloing moments. That's the polys done. We now come to the shorts. These are all your plucks. So read the instructions for a pluck. If you don't know what the mod wheel does, velocity or whatever, if you want to see the whole thing in one go, just press the plus button, you go into the patch zoom and it tells you exactly what you need to do, and then you zoom out. Soft particles. Soft matrix. Digitalis. that is all the single patches. We will now swiftly move on to the wonderful multis that come with this library. Right, we now move on to the wonderful multis that come with this fantastic library. And to get to multis, you click on your little button up here, default. Because if you try and do it this way, you can go switch to multi here, or you can actually go to up here and click on this thing here and go to your drop down directory and go that way. I prefer to just keep in the patch browser and see what's going on, so you can switch to multi in here, and we're in RMS Complexity, and you also get the categories as well, 8-way splits, stacked sounds. So I'll just quickly go through all these. BPM bell, as you're about to, you'll get a warning message possibly like this, telling you you're going to load a multi which will overwrite any patches you currently have in Omnisphere. Do you want, just say OK, and it comes across. There you go. If you go to multi, this tells you what patches have been layered, and if you go into the live, it tells you you can play in live mode, but this is stacked, so it's actually stacked. So if I just go back to mixer, and we're there. So these are all arpeggiaty type stuff. Drums. So play up and down the keyboard. Got a nice rhythm. Now if you go to stack, you can see how they're stacked. Now, I should have actually realised when it says MW, it means mod wheel. Play with your mod wheel. And if you look at this, this tells you where what actually comes in with your mod wheel. So if I bring it down to the bottom here, I'm only going to get the kick drum, and that's it. Bring it up a bit, get the claps. Bring it up a bit further, I get the rim. And then a bit further, I get the toms. And right to the max, I get the snare coming in. But then when I get to the top, rim drops out, the claps drop out. So I'll keep it on this page while we go through these multis. We've got a instant rhythm track you can actually control. So this is me intro. I'm building up a bit more, and I'm all out. I'm going to get onto some textures, and these are done the same way. So you can see a level of texturization. Don't know if it's a word, but hey. Sounds posh, sounds good. So these are wonderfully designed textures. Like I say, you can use these as intro setting the scene. I could do it for that, or I could have it underlined in the track, like under a drone or something here, just to give it a bit more interest. So a lead. lovely texture in the background there. Pads. So what he's done with these is layered the pad with a texture to just give it extra something, an extra kick. This is a time again where I remind you that if you want to see more of this type of stuff, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Helps this channel get discovered, and then you can sort of hear more of these types of walkthroughs. This is by far the longest one I've done. And yeah, I want to do quite a few more of these. So if you're a patch library designer and you want me to do walkthroughs, then get in touch with me. Go to my website, adrianearnshaw.com, drop me a message, and we can talk. You don't have to be Omnisphere. I do have access to Kontakt, so if you've got a Kontakt library you want me to sort of demo and play with, drop me a line and I'll be happy to oblige. I enjoy playing with these wonderful designs that you all come up with and showing people what you can actually do, not just with the patch library but with the instrument in itself. Like, I've gone through this patch library, but I've also shown you little hints and tips and nuggets of information. You might be wondering why these are like sloped here. Now that's because this controls your volume. So if I play further up, it'll get quieter. I don't think I've got enough keys. No, I don't have enough keys to go to there because I'm on an 88 note, but can I press on here? No, I can't. But that basically tails the notes sound out. So we've got scattered here again. As I said before, these wonderful names he comes up with, I don't know where they come from, but I wish they were easy to pronounce, some of these. But I do like these pads with a bit of background texture. It's really nice. And then we've got these splits coming up. Now these are interesting. So your notes will control what actually sounds. So on the bottom end we'll have that texture. So if you see these little blue dots, that's going to tell you what note I'm pressing. So I'm in that texture. That texture note brings that texture on. That brings a different texture on. That brings a different one on. That brings another one on. And in between we have that. Now if you want to strangely have them all sound together, then you will need a sustain pedal. And I so happen to have one. So if we push my sustain pedal down, so now I'm playing. That's what it all sounds like together. Sorry about that pop, that's because I cut the sound off. Great for spot effects. So you can have that in this sound in the bottom end and then play it with the top end. specs over the top of it, which is quite interesting. Now, what's going to happen here? We're on model wheel again. So if you see this 0 to 127, although it says 120, this bit over here will be 127 because that's as many sort of like messages steps in the message. So in the CC message you got 0 to 127, and 127 is maximum, so you get the full thing. So when you see this on Omnisphere, the chances are it's going to be the model wheel that's playing with this. So always play with that model wheel. Because there is no actual front page for the multi, so you can't tell what to use. It's a strange omission. I would have thought they would have had like a front page you have with the notes, because you know on here he's got notes, and you're thinking, yeah, that's fine, but they all tell me something different. So what happens when I go into the multi? Go to the multi page, and if you're in the mixer view, press stack, and you can see what's going on. Yes, I do want to change. There we go. Just quickly run through these Noisescapes. And so there you have it. That is the wonderful patch library that is called Complexity by Rocky Mountain Sounds. And if you haven't already picked up a copy of this, head on over to the website, Rocky Mountain Sounds. It is due out this week. I am recording this on Saturday the 3rd of September, so it should be out. And I will leave a link in the description below where you can go and pick up your copy. And I will just finish off by saying thank you if you stuck with me throughout this whole long overview of this wonderful library. Subscribe to the channel, like and ding that bell, and I will certainly catch you in the next one. Until then, take care.